didn't text a topics
I know I
list.
didn't.
I'm going in blind.
Yep.
God damn it.
Welcome to the Saints Happy Hour podcast, featuring Dave Cariello, Andrew Juge, Ralph Malbrough, and when he decides to show up, Kevin Held. We are the perfect blend of Saints sincerity and stupidity.
Gets out on the field and is doing like weird thumb stretches and on national television and looking like a goddamn weirdo. This guy is not. Got way too excited there. This guy's not going anywhere.
People in your house again that you don't know who they are?
Yeah.
And now, here's your host, Ralph Malbrough.
All right, everybody, welcome to a Sunday night edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. What a week it has been for the Saints. Remember when Drew Brees agreed to his 2-year contract 5 years ago? That was amazing. I feel like, guys, and Dave, I want your thoughts, that we've had a flurry of activity, and it's just with the Saints doing free agency and pandemic, we're all in house quarantine. Like, things that happened early in the week feel like 9,000 years ago.
Seriously. This has been the longest 3 months of my life. This has been the longest 3 months of my life. How long has it been? 3 months, right? We've been doing this for 3 months. I don't even have it that bad. I went to work most days last week. This is the week this week coming up where it's really going to start to hit me because I'm not really allowed to open my business, so I'll be doing very little. So I guess I'll be homeschooling my kids this week.
Oh, teachers need to be paid $1 billion. Trying to homeschool your kids is awful. And we'll get into the quarantining of America is driving celebrities insane. We'll get into that later. But I want to start. The Saints made a shit ton of news this week. So we're gonna work backwards because that's recency bias. And we did a podcast.
Let's Tarantino this shit.
Yeah.
First, let's start at the end, and then let's go to the beginning, and then let's go back to the end, and then go to the middle.
That sounds like Memento. You guys ever seen that movie?
It's good. I'm confused though. So we did a podcast Friday night. Breaking news, by the way. Become a $10 patron. You can have access to all the podcasts. You get the breaking news podcast. You should do it. $10. It's awesome. But the Saints signed Emmanuel Sanders, and Dave, you, Andrew, everybody, pretty much Saints Twitter has been begging for this for 2 years. I feel like collectively we sort of wished Emmanuel Sanders into existence on the Saints. Like, Saints Twitter was euphoric about that signing. What was your initial impression, and now that you've had a little time to sink in, are you still as excited?
Yeah, well, we kind of talked about it briefly last night when we were watching the Saints Chargers 2016 game, but I mean,
by the way, watch that because we broke 255 copyright laws. It's going to be coming down soon, so watch it while you can. But continue, Dave.
I mean, I love the signing. Look, Emmanuel Sanders is not he's certainly not in the same category as Michael Thomas, and he's, by NFL standards, he's older. He's like, what, 30, 31? He's on his 10th or 11th
He's
NFL.
33.
Yeah, he's on his 10th or 11th NFL season. But I mean, the Saints already have Michael Thomas. We don't need some big star. We just need help. We need the number 2 guy not to be Keith Kirkwood. And I think that automatically, Emmanuel Sanders comes in here and he is definitively, without a doubt, the number 2 guy. And I mean, this is not like past signings like Cam Meredith. Like, Emmanuel Sanders is a legitimate veteran. He's good for. I looked up his stats, and I know Andrew watched every game of his last year, so he'll have more in-depth stuff to tell you. But I mean, I looked at his stats, and he's good every single year for at least 50 catches. Usually more than that, and in the range of 700 to 800 yards. And for the Saints, for a number 2 guy, that's pretty damn good. So I am definitely excited. And wide receiver, I've been saying it all off season, but wide receiver was the one area I wanted to see them improve that. And they still have the draft, and this year's draft class is incredibly deep at wide receiver. So they're still probably going to use a high pick and probably grab another wide receiver. And then at that point, then, just play it out in camp.
Should Emmanuel Sanders, if he ever has an introductory press conference, I think he just needs to go to the podium and say, "Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Emmanuel Sanders and not Keith Kirkwood. You're welcome." And then just walk off. I think that's the best description of this acquisition I've heard.
Yeah. Or just go up to the mic and say, "Hello, everyone. The alternative was Austin Carr."
Right. I mean, I'm being slightly hyperbolic. I mean, I guess maybe. First of all, I didn't look this up. Is Ted Ginn, is he under contract again for next season?
He is not.
Okay. So, and they're probably, what are you guys thinking? Not going to resign him?
No.
Right. So, okay. So Emmanuel Sanders is number 2. And now your number 3 is either Traquan or Kirkwood. So
Kirkwood's with the Panthers.
That's
he's
right.
gone already. Oh yeah, he left. That's right. He
So
got
Traquan will be 3.
Yes, so you got Traquan 3. So I mean, basically the way you look at it is,
Dave, you're kind of going full Kevin on this podcast.
I mean, well, but no, I mean, seriously, this is basically a swap. You've basically swapped out Ted Ginn for Emmanuel Sanders, and in my opinion, that's a big upgrade.
It's a huge upgrade. And listen, the Saints, they got, 2017, they got the best year of Ted Ginn's career out of him, and he was 32. So I don't think the age makes a difference. The one thing that I was slightly surprised with, Andrew, is that I thought Emmanuel Sanders, even with his age, I thought he would get a little bit better contract because teams have so much money. I thought he would do better than 2 years. I mean, he basically got what Jimmy Graham got, and he's a way better. I know it's a different position, but I think he's a way better quality player than Jimmy Graham. And he basically got what Jimmy Graham got. I was surprised he didn't get more. That's why I was thinking he was sort of out of the Saints' price range.
Yeah, I mean, Sport Tac, the cap site, had him pegged at 2 years, $20 million. That was what they projected for him.
It's Sport Track, isn't it?
I thought it was Sport Tac. Maybe it's Sport Track.
Pretty sure it's Sport
Track.
Track.
Tac is the
No, it's
website you
Spot
go
Track.
to accidentally and they get your social security
You're right,
number.
it's Spot Track. Sorry, Spot Track. Yeah. Anyway, they had him pegged at 2 years, $20 million, and he got less than that. So I do think it's a favorable deal for the Saints. I think there is one thing that's interesting this year about free agency in that they can't really do physicals and they're not doing in-person visits. And so I think on some level, especially with a guy like that who's 33 and just played 20 games without a bye week last year, he actually never got. And if you pay $10, you'll listen to our Emmanuel Sanders podcast where I talk about everything I saw on film, watching every game he played last year. But because he was traded, he never had a bye week in the regular season. So he actually played 17 games last year during the regular season, which is rare for a player. And then he played in the Super Bowl. So he played 20 games last year. And, this is what I said on the other podcast, but that's a lot of wear and tear. And so, I wonder if a 33-year-old that just played 20 games and he played in all of them. He did have a rib injury, which took him out of 2 games, like midway through the games. I think maybe teams were a little nervous about offering him as much based on how much wear there was on the tread,
So Jason Champagne in the chat room said, "Y'all are sleeping on Emmanuel Butler. He could be the next Adrian Arrington."
We're gonna have.
I was gonna say,
Emmanuels.
have we not screwed that up yet? Has Ralph not confused them?
Oh, it's gonna be the battle of Emmanuels in training camp. Oh come, Emmanuel.
Well, it would be really hard for me to mash up the name because they have the same first name. So
Just say Emmanuel. Just say
Yeah.
Emmanuel and be done with it.
You really need that soundbite for Emmanuel Sanders now. You need like some, "Oh shall come to you, oh yeah." Like that needs to be his
His mu-
thing whenever we bring
his
him
mu-
up. You need
Well,
to
I
have some
mean-
like old school church.
Some monks.
Him.
Some
Yeah, some monks
Gregorian, Gregorian chanting.
That would be
I like it.
amazing.
It would be. I'll get on it because I'll have a ton of free time.
I heard you typing. I know you're right. You're taking notes. That's good.
I know.
That's good.
Actually, no, it's just the wire dangling from my headset banging. But the Saints also did a move this week. They did their yearly bring back an old Saints and pump in the nostalgia in our veins. And this year it's Malcolm Jenkins, who was sort of obvious when Philadelphia released him. Dave, people had sort of Saints fans, I felt like, had a little bit of a mixed reaction to him. We'll get to the reaction of the player that they brought back that people did not like in a second. We'll get to Andres Peat in just a second. But Malcolm Jenkins was a move that Saints fans were pretty positive about, I think.
I'm happy about it. I know the first thing everybody said was, well, the Saints always said, or Sean Payton always said, he regretted letting Malcolm Jenkins go. And I think a lot of that is from the locker room standpoint. Obviously, he was a leader in the locker room, and he was the same way in Philadelphia. He was very outspoken. He was a leader on that team. But I am super happy to see him back. I think this obviously means Von Bell is probably going to go bye-bye now. But yeah, I love when we get the band back together. Love it.
I mean, Andrew, are you surprised that Malcolm Jenkins got released, or the option not picked up or whatever, that he got signed before Von Bell did? Von Bell still hasn't signed with anyone.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll get signed tomorrow, would be my guess. But yeah, I am a little surprised by that. The thing about Malcolm Jenkins is, and I mentioned this, I apologize to our patrons for repeating myself, but this is the free show, and so a lot of people have not heard me say this, so I'll say this real quick. But one thing that I mentioned on one of our shows that I find really interesting about these two signings is that when you look at the Saints and the way they exited the playoffs the last 3 years, I mean, they really were coin flip situations, a Hail Mary pretty much, a bad reffing decision, and then a loss in overtime. So you put those three losses together in the playoffs and you compare that to what they did in the regular season. I mean, they were absolutely talented enough to win a Super Bowl all 3 years. They were a team with a lot of talent. And they already have their horses. They already have Brees, Michael Thomas, Cam Jordan, Lattimore, Kamara. I mean, those are this team. This is the backbone of this team that's going to produce week in, week out. But what they don't have, I mean, now Jenkins will be the third guy on the team was on that 2009 team. It was just Brees and Morstead, so now they have a third as they bring back Jenkins. But I just find it interesting in the sense that Jenkins won that Super Bowl with the Saints. He's won a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Emmanuel Sanders has now been to 3 Super Bowls with 3 different teams. He won with the Broncos, and he's been there with the Steelers, and he's been there now with the 49ers last year. And you just wonder, obviously I still think these guys have football left. They're still good players. From a skill set point of view, like it makes so much sense why they would add them. You see the vision and all that. But I just wonder if they've come so close in these playoff games. I wonder if what maybe Sean Payton feels like, he needs guys in the locker room in big moments that know what to do and know how to impart that on the younger players on the team. And so these two signings just feel maybe like, based on what we've gone through as fans and as a team, what they've gone through, that he needs guys like this in the locker room for those moments. That's what these two signings
Well, it has
felt
Sean
like
Payton's fingerprints all over it, but I hope he used Purell because he's got the Rona. Well, he's doing that. So, Dave, the other big news, we just go down the list, that had Saints Twitter upset was they gave Andres Peat $57 million. And I've made the joke so many times, like, I was just, when Andrew told me that news after I got out of the seventh circle of hell, aka Costco, on a Friday afternoon, I was just floored, fucking blown. My mind was blown, and I needed Andrew to just talk for like 2 minutes on the Patron podcast because I literally, needed a time to get myself together. What was your reaction when you heard that Andres Peat was getting $57 million?
Yeah, it seems like a lot. It seems like a big number for a guy like Pete. So I was definitely surprised, but at the same time, not really. I think Pete's value is just his versatility. I mean, he is how much did he have to play last year because starting guys on the O line were injured, and I mean he's playing left tackle or he's playing left guard, and I think that's where the value comes in.
You mean until he got injured himself?
Well, yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, he played 10 games last season, but 2018 he played 13 games, 2017, 15. I mean, he's usually available, and those guys are hard to come by.
We have 2 Jenkins defensive backs, 2 Sanders receivers, and oh, by the way, the chat room, Dave,
Two Emmanuel receivers.
2 Emmanuel. The chat room gets on you, Dave. You forgot about your adopted UDFA son, little Jordan, a wide receiver. Gave him the short shrift.
Oh yeah. Oh right. No, yeah. He's the number 3. That's right. Fuck off, Traquan.
Carl Granderson's getting 10 sacks this year.
Oh my God.
I can't wait to win that UDFA competition again this year.
Well,
no,
we need the coronavirus to go away for that alone. I mean, if there's no football season and we can't have a brand new UDFA competition, I will be crushed.
It will be a new low.
If we don't have a football season, I am going to be in an insane asylum in a straitjacket if Corona doesn't get me first. Like, I gotta have football. That's all there is to it. The Saints, they were nice enough to get Tom Brady off of ESPN, Dave, which was very nice of them. But the way they did it was Sean Payton got coronavirus, which isn't ideal. He's doing fine.
Did Tom Brady officially sign with the Buccaneers?
Yes, he did.
Yes.
Okay.
He did.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
So Sean Payton, he's going to be okay. So I feel like we can make all the jokes of the Rona jokes now because he's in the clear. But that was, I think, a moment where another moment where it just it went to another level. What was your immediate? When I heard Sean Payton when I saw tweets that Sean Payton had got the Rona, I didn't actually believe it. I just thought the Saints had done something really stupid in free agency and people were making jokes. And it took me a minute to realize, oh no, he really does have coronavirus.
You thought it was like a bad April Fool's Saints blog joke.
Well, no, I figured they had made like a terrible move, and people were just ripping on him. I didn't realize that it was actually real. But as far as Sean Payton getting corona, did it affect anything of you, like
No.
make it more serious or make it more personal or
No.
anything with the coronavirus? Did it affect you in any way?
No, it was a non-issue for me. I wasn't worried about Peyton. I'm still not worried about Peyton. I think he'll make a full recovery. Then he'll have it, and then he won't be able to get it again. So he can just go out there and just do whatever he wants to do, and he can get to coaching and hanging out at the facility.
That's a real upside. Andrew, as we move on we got other corona topics that are much lighter and more fun than Sean Payton getting it. But the one thing that I feel like is sort of forgotten because it's so much earlier in the week, and after Tom Brady got his deal and Phillip Rivers got his deal, Drew Brees gave the Saints such a fucking break with his 2-year $50 million, $25 million this year deal. It is such a contract break he has given them yet again. At the time, I was like, it's not that big of a break. But as we've gone on and we're a week into free agency, man, he gave them a discount.
Isn't that the same rate that Brady gave the Bucks? 2 years, 50.
Yeah, but Brady's is fully guaranteed both years.
Oh wow, yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's a good deal for the Saints, and it's one of those things where he certainly could have asked for more, especially if you look at his statistics last year. He was the number 2 rated quarterback in the league, led the league in completion percentage. I mean, I think he could easily say, look, I put up those numbers. And it was like you said, the Cardinals offered him 2 years, $60 million 2 years ago. And if you look at what he's done statistically since then, and if you look at what the salary cap is now, it's inflated since then. So I think there's a team out there that probably would have offered him $33 million for 1 year.
Oh my God, the Colts have like a billion amount of cap space. Like if Drew Brees wanted to look around, Dave, I think he could have got $35 million.
You don't think Ryan Pace would have been salivating?
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, for sure.
Ryan Pace, now that you think about it, that's a great point, Dave. Ryan Pace would have gave him 2 years, $80 million. He gave Jimmy Graham 2 years, $16 million. What's to stop him, man? His employment is on the line.
Dude, you know that if Ryan Pace would get Graham, Brees, and he would find a way to get Sproles out of retirement too.
2011 all over again.
Ryan
Now
Pace,
that's getting the band back together.
That'll save my job.
he really is dollar store Mickey Loomis, Ryan Pace. He really is. But as we sort of...
He was right about Cam Meredith, though, not matching.
Cha-ching. Gotcha. The Saints free agency, they signed DJ Schweringer today. Can I drop the breaking news in, or is that a little bit late? But free agency is basically done. So I kind of want both of your opinions on the Saints sort of free agency process and what you give it, and just your overall feelings of, are they better, are they worse, or are they the same? And Andrew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, well, they lost Teddy Bridgewater, so I think there's less. I mean, as it stands right now, you're not really in a position to risk Taysom Hill, and so they're still going to have to get someone there. I don't think they're done, by the way. Obviously, I think they're going to have to make some moves. But I don't. I mean, I think getting Andres Peat back was actually really important. And it's not that I didn't want to upgrade from him, but I certainly to move backwards from him was a non-negotiable. And so when you look at the top 2 guys in free agency, and Brandon Scherf and Joe Thuney, they both got franchised, and they weren't options. And so with them off the board, you really started to be limited because guard quality was pretty thin in free agency this year. So
And I mean, if
they end up.
and Glasgow, you can. I think you can make an argument. Glasgow was the only free agent available guard that was better than Peat, and everybody else was either equal to or less quality than him.
Yeah. So, and he gives you that flexibility that he can play left tackle. So, I think it was important, and I think getting Onyemata back was really important too, because you want to keep that defensive rotation on the defensive line going. So, if you ask me what position group is worse, I would say right now maybe just linebacker. And obviously they lost AJ Klein; they didn't really replace him, so that's a concern. He's a pretty good player for them, but they still have the draft. Now they have less picks than most teams, and they don't have a second-round pick again this year. So it's that I think it's going to come down for the Saints. It's going to come down to them having another good draft. And last year, with very little assets, they were able to get C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They were able to get Eric McCoy, and they were able to get some undrafted rookies that really helped the team. So I think it's going to be incumbent on them to do the same, to really hit on some of these picks. But look, this was a 13-3 team last year. They were super talented, and the one thing a lot of us felt like they were missing was a slot receiver, and they've got that, a very good one in Emmanuel Sanders. So I feel pretty good. I feel good about the team right now that they'll be competitive. The one thing I worry about is just how much better I think the NFC South's gotten, and I would be curious to hear which free agent signing scares you most: Teddy in Carolina, Tom Brady in Tampa, or Todd Gurley in Atlanta?
Well, we'll get to that's a great question. We'll get to that in actually a Twitter. That was one of the Twitter questions. But Dave, I want Dave's opinion on free agency. Do you feel like they went forward, backwards, or the same?
They always go forward. I agree with Andrew. I don't think they're totally done yet. They'll probably have a couple more signings. I mean, we saw they weren't very active in the beginning. I think they like to get bargain guys. They like to shop around in the bargain bin, when you're at Blockbuster and they had the old VHS tapes and they were like $5 for $20.
History of the world for $4.
They like to get a couple of those guys at the end. So I don't think they're done yet. And look, this offseason has kind of gone the way I said it would, and I think we all agreed it would. It's like a meh offseason. It's like, yeah, they filled holes they needed to fill. They addressed the needs they needed to address, but they didn't do it with any big splashes. It wasn't very exciting.
I feel like Emmanuel Sanders, because he burned the Saints to the ground in that game. Like, that is in Saints world, like, that was a splash signing.
To me, it's the 2020 version of signing Ted Ginn. It's like the same. They're the same exact thing to me. I feel like this is the same movie we've seen before, and that's good. And the Ted and all these, I think all these signings are going to wind up really paying off dividends on the football field. Andrus Peat is going to continue just being a solid, just decent lineman, and Emmanuel Sanders is definitely going to elevate the passing game, and Malcolm Jenkins is definitely going to, he's going to be teaming up with Demario Davis, and the two of them are going to fucking have this defensive locker room on fucking lockdown. And I absolutely think that they have gotten better, and I absolutely think they're going to continue to get better in the draft.
Well, they're on lockdown right now. That's for sure.
America on lockdown.
Malcolm Jenkins and Demario Davis are the kind of guys that'd be like, okay, well, I guess that's more than 10 people, so that wouldn't be allowed. But they'd be like, we're all going to go to somebody's house and like hang out there and quarantine together and just bond as a defense.
Speaking of bonding, the athletes and celebrities and football players are losing their minds on fucking Twitter. Jamal Murray for the Denver Nuggets, he did an Instagram of his girlfriend giving him head today. He Instagrammed that out just for America to see and enjoy.
This? I'm sorry, what?
Jamal Murray for the Nuggets, point guard.
That actually happened?
That actually happened.
What was he thinking?
Oh my God.
I don't.
Oh my God.
You'll have to ask him. I don't know. So they had that.
Now
they
I
had
gotta this.
They had Cam Jordan. He was trying to make
Is that
teriyaki
Jamal
chicken.
with two M's, one L?
One M. He claims he was hacked. I'm reading about it right now.
Yeah, he was hacked.
Yeah, hacked my ass.
He was blown. That's what he was. So he did that. Cam Jordan tried to make teriyaki chicken that went horribly wrong, and Sean Payton was making fun of him on the Twitters. And then Madonna did this weird video from her tub surrounded with rose petals, saying that the coronavirus doesn't discriminate against the rich or poor, with like candles and shit. It was very weird. So like celebrities are fucking losing their mind because I guess they don't have their handlers around them to tell them to not do that, or they're just going stir crazy like the rest of us. But Andrew, what?
Wait a minute. The Cam Jordan raw chicken thing, that's happened before with somebody else. No, I'm getting deja vu from this. Didn't somebody else post a video of them cooking chicken or something, and it was raw, and then they wound up getting like salmonella or whatever?
Sounds like Dave's losing his mind too.
No, didn't didn't somebody like miss like a football game or something because they were sick, and then they discovered that it was because they didn't cook their chicken?
I want to say
Somebody
I
in the
remember that,
chat
but
room. This happened. This
help
somebody in
Dave
the
out.
chat room is going to remember this. And they're gonna-
Dave has Rona. I knew you had Rona. I knew it.
Is one of the symptoms of coronavirus like delirium?
Yes, absolutely.
No,
But
no,
here's-
I totally. Somebody like missed a game or something because they got. And it turns out they didn't cook their chicken enough. I don't remember if it was a.
I
States
feel like
player
I
or somebody in the
mean,
NFL.
you know who you're talking to. I would have definitely remembered this, Dave.
Worry
I-
about.
no, well,
We've
'cause I don't know
gone
if it
from
was- I don't
worry
know if it
about
was
your
a Saints
meat to
player.
cook your chicken.
This is probably some New York Ranger in the 90s.
No,
Dave.
no. Somebody in the chat room is going to remember. I think
Mark
the chat,
Messier
I
was
think the
making
chat room-
kebabs. And
Yeah.
it went really, really
Yeah.
wrong.
I don't remember Adam Graves doing that, but I'm sure it happened.
But Andrew, you asked a good question. What free agent move in the NFC South scares you more? Bridgewater to Carolina, Brady to Tampa, or Todd Gurley to Atlanta? I would
Atlanta
say
got Dante Fowler too. You
Dante
put him
Fowler.
in there.
I would
Yeah.
say of all of them, you have to say Brady, even though I do believe he's not a great fit in Tampa, and I believe he's started his decline. He's not going to turn the ball over 30 times like Jameis Winston. So even if he's not any good, he's still going to be turn the ball over less than 12 times, and that makes Tampa very, very formidable in my opinion, and probably bumps them up to like an 8-9 win team, which if they go to the 7 playoff teams format, that's probably a playoff team in the NFC. So I would say that the Brady move scares me the most, but it doesn't like make me shake at night, Dave.
Really? Because I guess I'm definitely the Brady move is the biggest concern, for sure. And I mean, he's got some weapons on the other end of the football in Tampa Bay. So
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because, we talk about Brady's decline, but he really started to look bad when Gronk wasn't there anymore, and I just wonder what would Brees look like without Michael Thomas, so it's one of those things where you add all of a sudden Mike Evans and
Godwin.
Chris Godwin. You add those guys to Brady, and maybe
Great
he
tight
has a
end.
bounce back year where he looks a little bit better. But I do think when you get older, it's important to have big playmakers. And I mean, it's not that I think on some level Brees made Colston and he made Jimmy Graham, but I also think he was able to put prolific numbers up because he had guys like that. And same with Michael Thomas. But I'm with you guys. I definitely think Tom Brady is. Especially Tampa has a lot of talent, and like you said, I think Jameis Winston was a big reason why they didn't win more games, is lack of consistency. So, I don't know how good Brady's going to be, but I don't think he's going to lose them games. But I will tell you who else needs to be worried. It's Michael Thomas. His record with check down Teddy in Carolina. McCaffrey may break his receiving record
By week 12.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, Teddy, he'll be okay in Carolina, but they're like tearing up their team and rebuilding. I just,
And Kuechly retired.
yeah, I mean, like, who else do they have besides McCaffrey?
Kuechly retired. Greg Olson is gone, so it's a new era there.
I mean, they're in full rebuild. They gave that new coach Matt Rule. They gave him 7 years. So like, I mean, granted, their owner is a billionaire, Dave, so they can fire him after a couple if they wanted to. But probably they're in the long haul with him he's probably going to get at least 3 years, no matter how much they go backwards this year. But do we still feel like this? Oh, and Gurley with Atlanta, like Atlanta.
Gurley's done. Huh?
Yeah.
Why does
he's got
everyone
nothing.
say that, Dave? Did you watch him play last year?
No, he barely even played like the beginning of the season, right?
I'm just surprised that I get it that he has like the arthritic knee, but I'm surprised that people are writing him off. I mean,
I mean, didn't LA have him like on a play count and like they were.
They tried, yeah.
I mean, he still rushed for 850 yards and 12 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like his usual ridiculously awesome self. Like he wasn't like one of the best backs in the league like he normally is, but I mean, he's I think he's better than Devontae Freeman at this point.
Well, the ideally what you want from Todd Gurley is you want Atlanta to be 7-9 again, but Todd Gurley be really good, and then Atlanta make a more long-term commitment to him, and then his knee blows up. Like that's the ideal situation.
No, I mean, I think, I mean, I'm with, I know that where you guys are going with it is that Gurley's on borrowed time, and I feel that too. I mean, that's why they gave him a 1-year deal.
I was surprised Gurley got a deal without teams being able to do medicals on him. Like I just figured like he would have to wait until like the training camp and everybody's back and getting in, then teams can bring him in and look at him once the pandemic.
It's gonna be interesting to see if some of these deals get nixed. You know, if let's say like a month or two from now, if this ever gets lifted and things get better and they finally get these players in to do physicals, if we see some deals get canceled down the road.
I would think we'd at least have one or two, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Dave, you think so? No or no?
I mean, you know who it really sucks for is a guy like Joe Flacco, who just got released for he failed a physical. They released him with a failed physical designation, and so now like he can't really go meet with teams and work out for them and get a physical done. So I mean, for a guy like that, I mean, who would want Joe Flacco anyway? But I mean, him being unemployed, like it just really sucks for a guy like that.
He might be a guy the Saints, Dave, are going to go with, in my opinion, they're going to sign another quarterback, and it's going to be the Jamie Martin, Mark Brunell corpse variety of quarterback. And Joe Flacco
actually, that's
right
not a
into
bad
that.
idea. I would not mind Joe Flacco.
Like, because Dave,
Would you guys hate that? I mean, we have Taysom Hill, and it's obviously if something happened to Brees, Taysom would be the starter. But if Flacco signed for a very small deal just to be kind of the third quarterback, I would not hate that.
Dave.
Wait, what were you guys talking about? I'm still trying to find this Jamal Murray Instagram video. I can't. I can't find the not suitable for work version.
If Joe Flacco signs 1 year, $2 million.
I would totally take Joe Flacco. That would be like the best backup quarterback we've had since Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I don't know. Andrew was texting me as he was watching Emmanuel Sanders, as you were watching that tape last night, and you were like, "My fucking God, Joe Flacco was terrible." So,
yeah.
If I hadn't had that text from Andrew and not actually watching Flacco play in Denver, I'm with Dave. I'd be like, he might be pretty good. Joe Flacco, he won a Super Bowl way back when. He wouldn't
really
be bad
that
as a
bad?
third quarterback.
Was he really like falling off a cliff?
Their offensive line is just, their pass protection was just horrendous.
Yeah.
So bad. Yeah, so I mean that definitely made him look worse. But I will tell you guys this: I watched like 30 NFL games over the last 3 days, and so I've watched a lot of Carson Wentz, I've watched a lot of Joe Flacco, I've watched a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo because Malcolm Jenkins and Emmanuel Sanders played on all three of those quarterbacks. So I watched a lot of them, and then I watched all the quarterbacks that they played. And it was a reminder to me how freaking terrible everybody is compared to Drew Brees. Seriously. I like it. It just like Drew Brees would have made that throw. Drew Brees wouldn't have done that. Like it's just like there are moments in every game, and like these aren't even like Flacco's won a Super Bowl. Carson Wentz has been to the playoffs. Like Garoppolo just went to the Super Bowl this year. And he went to the playoffs with the Patriots. Like I'm not talking about guys that are just like bottom feeders in the league. These are guys that have been successful, and they just I have never spent this amount of time watching other quarterbacks play, and it just dawned on me again how ridiculously spoiled we are and by watching excellence every Sunday and thinking it's just normal.
I watched the Saints Browns from 2006 today, and Charlie Fry was an abomination. And oh, by the way, 2006 Brees, his arm is kind of like it is in 2019. Like his arm in 2006.
I watched that Saints 49ers game when I was watching Emmanuel Sanders, and I mean Brees was ridiculous in that game. He was awesome.
Yeah. Drew Brees standing on his head in the defense, failing him. It's a reoccurring theme the last decade and a half.
Yes, it is.
So before we get to Twitter questions, which we have a couple, I wanted to talk about, school's out probably until the fall. So a lot of us with kids
Please
are having.
God, no.
So a lot of us with kids are trying to like homeschool or entertain your kids. So I was thinking, Andrew, I know America's under quarantine, but if in this time of no school, if you needed a Saints player to babysit your kid, who would be the best Saints player to babysit your kid, and who would be the worst?
Well, best for sure, I got to go with Thomas Morstead. I mean, I don't know if you've been watching, but his son, I think it's Max. He's already has him riding a bike, and he's very young, and he's like has him jumping rope, and he's done like 20 in a row. And I know Thomas Morstead is big on nutrition and eats very healthy, so he would be a good babysitter for my kids. So without a doubt, I'm going Thomas Morstead. I mean, my kid won't even ride his bike because last summer he fell off his bike and broke his arm, and he's terrified to ride it, so he won't even do it. So my son is 9, and Thomas Morstead's kid's like, I don't know, he's like a 9-month-old, and he's riding his bike better than my son.
9-month-old.
He's not. Yeah, I don't know. He's like 5, I guess. But so I would pick Thomas Morstead as the best.
Unbelievable.
The worst, huh? Ooh.
The worst. Who would be the worst babysitter? I mean, all time you'd got to go like Albert Cannell because he's a thief.
Darren Sharper.
I don't know. I think I'd trust those two over Junior Gillette.
Ooh, that's a bad choice. I feel like Jonathan Sullivan would have given my kids like bad eating habits, Like you get home and you're like, did you eat a whole dozen Krispy Kreme donuts? And they'd be like, yes.
Yeah, he like, yeah, and then I threw the trash in the cabinets.
Oh, somebody in the chat room
But
said,
we got to go current roster, right?
yeah, you got to go current roster. So,
all right, Dave, you go. I'll think about this.
I think the worst person to have would be Armstead, because he's always getting hurt, and you'd probably get a call from like the hospital or the quick clinic that like something horrible went wrong.
Yeah, he probably would tear his bicep holding him or something.
Yeah. So, Teron Armstead. But Dave, did you have any idea who would be the worst babysitter?
No, I don't have a worst. The best here. This is going to be a surprise one. This is a dark horse, but I happen to know for a fact that Marcus Davenport. He's really into like kid stuff like video games and Pokemon and stuff.
Oh yeah, he's into the Japanese anime too.
Yeah, he's into like all that stuff. So he'd be really cool with like my kid, because my kid's really into all that stuff.
Right.
So that would be good, right?
Yeah. No, he's on the good side. Yeah, I can't think of anybody that would be bad.
Little Jordan Humphrey, maybe.
No,
he'd be the worst.
He would be an angel.
Oh, the answer is Granderson, of course.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I can't believe I didn't think of that.
If you can't trust your kids with family, who can you trust them with, right?
That's right. That's true.
Somebody said, "Man, we are so desperate for sports. They're showing old sports. ESPN has juggling dodgeball on the Ocho right now, which is a real actual thing apparently. I don't know I don't know how I'm gonna just survive into May without fucking sports. Because free agency, the well is eventually gonna run dry, and we'll keep churning out these podcasts. By the way, you should sign up at the Daily Show. $10, you get all the cool swag, including Crew to Taysom Cup. We'll keep churning out the Saints content, but if I don't have fucking sports to watch at night, I'm gonna go crazy. And my poor wife, when it hits her,
My poor wife.
yeah,
My
wife.
when it hits her in April that baseball isn't there, she is going to lose her fucking mind, and I fear for her mental well-being, because she is a die-hard baseball fan of the likes most people aren't in this country anymore. And when she don't have the Astros on anymore, I might just have to start playing old Astros games and trick her and convince her that they did actually start the season, and see how long it takes her to figure it out. But it's going to be bad. So after they play the...
Which channel's the Ocho? How do I get the Ocho?
I think it's on the Deuce right now.
What is that?
Or maybe
ESPN 2?
Yeah, or maybe it's regular
no,
ESPN. I mean, it's not like they have anything else to show.
Regular ESPN has WrestleMania 30.
Oh man,
The Rock.
these are great in the chat. Saints Recline says, if it's an all-time Saint, he would pick Gleason because he comes with a whole entourage that can help.
That's true.
That's a great answer. And then Gabriel says, the worst would begin because you know he'd drop your kid.
A pivotal moment for Ted Ginn. Somebody
I don't
said...
see juggling dodgeball. What I do see is first it's a volleyball, and you hit it with your head on a ping pong table, and so it's ping pong, but it's
Volleyball?
But you use your head. You don't use a
Volleyball?
paddle, and you don't use your hands. You use your head, and the ball is about the size of a volleyball.
Volleyball?
This is wild. If anybody is going to be getting CTE, it's these guys. Holy shit. This is fucking crazy.
How the fuck do you dream up that sport? Like...
Turn on ESPN 2. Turn it on immediately. It's called the Moxie Games? What's it called? It's called Headies? Is it called Headies?
I saw they want to
These dudes are putting like fucking crazy spin on this ball using their head. They're like contorting and twisting their head at the point of impact, and it's like totally. This is unbelievable.
Dude,
how do you get into this sport? How the
don't
fuck do you get into this sport?
I don't even know. We're on day 8. They're talking about America needing to be quarantined till like the middle of April. We are not going to make it. I mean, if that's what's on ESPN now, Andrew, remember that?
Look, Dave. If you want to talk about something insane real quick, if you think that's insane, I got something even crazier for you. Right now, the Saints are in line for a comp pick.
And not like not like a 6th or 7th round comp pick. They're in line.
Yeah.
I tried to gauge like teams losing and gaining players. Now they signed Emmanuel Sanders, so that will even it out a little. I think they're going to get a 3rd round comp pick.
Well, let's see. They've lost Apple, AJ Klein, Teddy. Have they lost anybody else?
Well, they'll lose Von Bell.
Okay, so they'll lose 4 guys, and they've only signed Emmanuel. Like Jenkins doesn't count because he was cut. He wasn't a regular free agent. So they've only picked up 1 guy, and if they lose Von Bell, that'll be 4. So they could be in line for like 2 comp picks.
Yeah. So, well, they said I looked at it previously. Like if you lose 3, you usually will get at least 1 3rd round pick. If you lose more than that, you usually get an extra one. I was looking at it. I think it'll be best case scenario. It'll be a 3rd and a 5th. The worst case scenario right now is they're getting a 3rd round comp pick, which that is a legitimate quality draft asset, Dave. Of course, the chances of the Saints actually
I'm
using it.
Sorry, you do not have my attention. I am enthralled with this head-butting ping pong sport.
Well, hey Dave, if they don't have NFL games in the fall, you can be our full correspondent for that. You can dive
Are
into
you
it.
gonna-
Give us a.
Will you will you pay me to go to this thing?
We might if enough people become $10 patrons. You get the crew to Days and Cup. You get daily podcasts, and we'll send Dave to be a correspondent for whatever crazy sport that is, where people hit
Wait,
a
so
volleyball.
is this sport not quarantined or shut down? Like, is this
No,
happening
it's
live, or
old.
is this just like replays from last summer or something?
Oh, I'm sure it's a replay.
I don't know. Did you guys? Did you turn it on? Did you watch this? Are you looking at what I'm looking at?
It's insanity. But that could be good for
Great.
me
I'm
because
not really in a position without waking people up to go do
well,
that.
here's my thing.
must know
I
more.
like this
I
game,
must know
Dave,
more.
because you can't use your arms, and I only have one good arm. Maybe that's the sport that I needed to commit to when I was younger.
I don't know, because these guys are like, they're sliding up and like getting up on the table and getting their heads all up by the net. You know,
And they're making the ball.
again, it's like
How are they making the ball curve like that?
that's what I'm saying, dude. On
It's-
the serves is when they put the most spin on it, because I guess they have control over the ball.
All right, I gotta
don't know.
turn this on.
I don't know. This is amazing. And but
This-
again, the main question is how do you get into this? Like, do you like walk into a bar one day and people are playing this, and you're like, "What are you guys doing?" "Oh, this is called headbutting ping pong. You want to play?" "Oh yeah."
Who
All of
invented
a
that?
sudden, I have no-
Dude, did stoners invent that game or
I don't. That cannot be good for your brain.
no? I would think not.
You know, there's some people out there that are insanely into this.
Oh, there's people that are
Like,
insane.
diehard.
Raise his hand emoji.
I'm waiting for him in a week, Andrew. Remember those old NFL games that it was a metal board and you would plug it in and it would vibrate and the little players would move?
Oh yeah.
Did anybody? I don't know what you called that, but apparently people still play that and they like shave the pieces down and they run fucking plays and it's amazing. In a week, America, we'll be watching that on ESPN because they ain't got nothing else. I read like a 3,000 word article on that like 3 months ago. It was incredible. Like people, Dave, you would how do you, like you asked the question, how do people get into that? I was like, how do people care about NFL football where it's a vibrating board? But apparently they do, because if there's something that you're into with the internet nowadays, you can find a group of it in Facebook that are just as into it as you. So,
Yeah. Wait. What was I gonna say?
It's on commercial right now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a commercial.
so let's before we get out.
Wait, I had something witty to say and I forgot what it was.
Well, if you think of it, just jump in because I'm just gonna do.
Well, no, it was topical. It had to do with something. Something you said.
You blew it.
I know I did.
We have
I
some
know.
Twitter
Wait,
questions.
what? Wait, this is ping pong.
No, it's with your head and a volleyball or something smaller than a volleyball.
I thought you
It's like-
guys said. I thought you guys said it was dodgeball.
No, Ralph said originally. Ralph said juggling dodgeball.
That was what was on before this.
What is wrong with these guys?
I'm glad we sucked Andrew in now. Look at the way this guy slides up. He's like a beached whale. The way he slides up. I mean, they're not like athletes. You know, these aren't like finely tuned athletes. These are like dudes. And like when that guy slides up on the ping pong table on his belly, it's like a beached whale. Like,
Yeah, these guys are
there he
definitely
is
getting
right there.
CTE.
They look like he looks like a dolphin when they come up getting the food when somebody's handing them the food. This is my everything. This is this quarantine thing is not so bad.
This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
And you were at our live show, so you know dumb shit. You know what it looks like.
Okay. Amazing.
We're gonna get through it together. What's that hashtag? Alone together or some bullshit like that. So here we got some Twitter questions from people. Preston
Oh,
Ellis.
that was insane. Sorry, go ahead.
Congratulations to Preston. His wife had a baby this week. He asked, Disney is tentatively planning to reopen on April 26th. Is that too soon? No, Preston. By April, middle of April, we're going to be so desperate.
And he blew it. And he blew it.
I didn't know you could stand up on the table. This
What?
guy's getting crazy aggressive.
If we built a Saints team for this, what kind do you need, like wide receivers, or I feel like you need some offensive linemen to do the whale belly flop thing, right?
Pace him or nothing, dude. Pace him or fucking nobody. Oh, Jesus, this is amazing. This is so fucking great.
Andrew Reichert asked, if Mickey did my taxes, would I be in jail for life or getting $1 billion refund?
Well, you'd get $1 billion
The
refund.
answer is
First.
yes. The answer is yes.
You'd get $1 billion refund at first, and then once the feds catch up with you, you're going to jail.
No, we're not talking about Kevin Hauser here.
Man, when he did that tax scheme, they got him the fuck up and out of there quick. This is from Jed. He asked, would some form of football or other sport still exist in a post-apocalyptic New Orleans? Do you think it would be post-apocalyptic Waterworld, a dystopian Mad Max Bartertown, or something else? I mean, I feel like it might be like The Postman, where Tom Petty ran the city with no guns. Hopefully, that's what it would be like. But I don't know.
Tom Petty, the musician?
Yeah, he was in. You never seen The Postman with Kevin
No.
Costner?
No,
Tom
I love
Petty's
Tom Petty.
No, actually, Jed, the clearly the sport that is gonna be all the rage in post-apocalyptic New Orleans is gonna be Dodge ping pong volleyball. Clearly, that's gonna be the
Headbutting volleyball.
I
What is
mean-
the name of this sport? Oh my gosh. I'm
Yeah,
so in love.
calling it ping pong volleyball doesn't even do it justice because you can only use your head.
No,
Yeah.
right. Oh, there's juggling. I see juggling in the background there.
But you know what's crazy about real ping pong is you're not allowed to touch the table. So it's just insane to watch them literally jump on it, dive on it. They belly flop on the ping pong table.
I need to know the name of the sport, and next week we need to go through the rules of it.
I don't think there are rules. I think it's just like regular ping pong. Other than that, that's it. By the way, the announcer just started juggling out of nowhere. He just started juggling apples.
America is falling the fuck
Dark.
apart.
This
It's
is dark
dark.
times.
Dark times.
I see. I don't get it. This is great. This is. I think we're evolving. I don't think we're going backward. I think we've taken 3 steps forward.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
No, that's
That
what's
was-
happening,
that was
Dave.
appropriate.
We're not
That
going.
was appropriate.
We're not going forward. And
What about today? Is today the worst day of your life? Yeah.
yeah, if we're in September and you're breaking down ping pong with your fucking head and a volleyball, we know it's dark times. But thanks to everyone in the chat room. And by the way, we had such a great response from the live stream of the Saints games, the quarantine party. We're going to do another one. Send us your suggestions of games you want to see. Use saintshappyhour@gmail. We'll try to find the condensed version on YouTube. We'll do it again. We'll break 900 different copyright laws. YouTube will send me an email, and I'll take it down. But it'll be a fun thing to do while we're quarantined. So send us your Saints games that you would want us to do. We'll try to find them. We had a blast last night. So do that. Also, if you want to, become a patron at the $10 level, and also support local businesses where you can. They're all struggling. Do your part and try to survive out there as we all stay in our houses and try to avoid the plague. So for Dave, for Andrew, I'm Ralph. Until next week, the bar is closed.